Hey, what's going on, guys? Should be starting up now. So give me one sec. Let me tweet out the stream, and then we'll jump into it. Obviously, here to talk about some Thursday Night Football. Jags, Dolphins. I think it's actually a pretty interesting slate, to be honest, for Showdown at least, because production's spread out between the teams. There's a lot of value on this slate, so I think for GPPs, you can definitely leave a good amount of salary on the table. Like right now, I'm just playing it a bit riskier, and I am leaving almost 4K on the table, and I feel pretty good about it. So it's a really, really interesting one, so give me one sec, and then we'll jump into it. But yeah, I hope you guys are all having a good Thursday. If you guys are interested, I will have my final look video for Week 3's main slate probably up later tonight, so be on the lookout for that. But all right, let's talk about this slate. We'll go over the Vegas odds. We'll talk about some snap counts too, real quick. If you guys didn't check out the video, and then I'll get to my breakdown, kind of what I'm thinking, and then get to questions at the end. So let's take a look at this. The over has gone up since I want to say it started in the mid 40s, and like when I made my video, it was like 48. Now it's 49.5. Both teams aren't great, but neither defense is good, and both offenses can move the ball. So this is definitely a game that I think has shootout potential. I think there will be some points scored in this one. Like I said, it makes a really, really interesting slate. Yeah, let's go over the snap counts really quick, just so you guys have a good idea of who played what last week and who's more viable for this slate. So the Jags, their running backs, Robinson is the 1 and 2 down back. He played on just over 50% of the snaps last week. He's a guy that can catch a few balls, but not an amazing pass catching back. That's what they have Chris Thompson for. He's getting up there in age, but he's still a really, really good pass catching back. He'll be utilized more in the third down situations. He caught a touchdown last week. I think he makes for an interesting value play in this slate, just because, in my opinion, you have Isaiah Ford down there, you have Keelan Cole, you have a lot of guys I think are going to eat up value or eat up ownership for value plays, whereas I think Chris Thompson kind of goes overlooked. But we saw multiple big games from him from Washington over the years. The upside is still there from him. I don't think he's going to be that high owned, so he intrigues me as a lower owned GPP play. Wide receiver situation. So the big news here is DJ Chark ruled out. That does open up some stuff here. Keelan Cole and Shenault are going to be very popular, in my opinion, besides the quarterbacks, two of the most popular plays. And then I think Chris Conley gets a pretty big boost as well. Another value play that is certainly in play here. And then Colin Johnson, the rookie wide receiver from Texas, I think gets a few extra snaps. And what happens with D.D. Westbrook? Well, he's now active for the first time this year. So how many snaps does he get? I think there's a chance that he gets into the rotation and plays a bit. So he's a potential punt play at the flat min price. Tight end situation, yeah, so Eifert's going to play 60-ish% of the snaps. They will use two tight ends, though, a decent amount. O'Shaughnessy played in almost 50% of the snaps, and Ellefson will get utilized a bit there. Both, O'Shaughnessy and Ellefson are playable, but nothing more than just dart throws, really. As far as the Miami running back situation, this was a little bit surprised coming into the year. A lot of people thought it was going to be Jordan Howard, 1 and 2 down back, the Breida as the third down back. Well, it's been Myles Gaskin. He's played in over 60% of the snaps the first couple weeks. He's a guy that's a good pass-catching back as well. So Gaskin is clearly the guy that you're going to feel the most comfortable with as far as the Miami running backs on this slate. Breida at 21% of the snaps, and he's a decent pass-catching back, but really just more in the range, just like a dart throw. Nothing you can really go to with confidence, right? And Jordan Howard's a guy I'm going to completely avoid. If he gets a goal line touchdown, so be it, but he's just not cheap enough for me to consider him for a guy that's only going to play 10% of the snaps. I mean, they will bring him in goal line situations, right? He's had a touchdown the first couple weeks, but I'm just not considering him in the slate. Patrick Laird maybe picks up a few snaps, but not enough for me to consider him. The wide receiver situation, so Devontae Parker is their number one, but they'll spread it out, right? Isaiah Ford has actually led the team in targets. Preston Williams, who had a breakout rookie year last year, has had a little bit of a quiet start, but I kind of like him Again, I think he flies under the radar as well for GPPs. So those three will play the majority of the snaps. Jakeem Grant will get in here and there, but again, nothing more than just like a super risky dart throw. And that's really it for the Miami wide receiver situation. As far as tight ends go, Mike Gesicki had a big game last week. Only played in 55% of the snaps. Doesn't really worry me. And they will utilize him a ton. He's another guy I think will be very popular. This slate, I think there's going to be a lot of chalk plays. Like both quarterbacks are going to be super, super popular. I think Gesicki will be really popular. I think, James Robinson will pick up a lot of ownership. So there is definitely merit to leaving salary on the table and getting different because there's a lot of cheap options I think have upside, and that's the way that I'm going about it. I'm only building one lineup. You guys know I'm a single entry guy. I'm just going super, super risky. I'm leaving a bunch of money on the table. And then, Dalton Smythe, Miami will also utilize two tight ends a decent amount. He played in almost 50% of the snaps. Not a great pass-catching tight end, but can definitely catch a touchdown. That's all you really need. And then Shaheen as well picked up 23% of the snaps. So both teams did use three tight ends. The second and third string tight ends are in play, but nothing I could really recommend with confidence. So that's really it for the snap count situation. So let's get to the player-by-player breakdown, and then I can get to some questions at the end. Real quick, though, closing in 100 viewers. If you guys enjoy the content, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Just hit 5,000 subscribers now on YouTube. So again, thank you guys for all the support. Really do appreciate all you guys coming to check out this live stream. All right, so let's talk about the players now. So let's go to the flex position. And the quarterbacks at the top, Minshew, Fitzpatrick, both are going to be super, super high owned. I don't necessarily think you have to play both, but for a cash game lineup, yes, I would play both quarterbacks. Minshew's a guy that can get a little bit done on the ground, not like a great rushing quarterback, but he can run one in. He's had a really, really solid first couple weeks. And this game I think it does have shoot-up potential. The over keeps going up, right? It's almost to 50 over-under now. So I like both quarterbacks here. I think for safety, I think you play both. Can you fade one? Yes, right? You don't have to play both, but for the safety and for my lineup, I am playing both because I'm hoping for the shootout. And then, I'm kind of playing both quarterbacks and playing some cheaper wide receivers to pair them with them. But yeah, really like both quarterbacks here. I think they're safe. Both defenses are not great. Neither really has like amazing rushing upside, but the floor is the highest on the quarterback. So I think for a cash game lineup, I think you just start your lineup with that, right? You play both quarterbacks and you move on. There's definitely enough value on the slate to get them both in there. So that's how I would start a cash game lineup. For GPPs, you can fade one, right? I wouldn't fade both personally. The only real way I think I would fade both quarterbacks if I think the game would be like super, super low scoring. And what you need there is obviously like all the production on the ground. But that's not the direction that I'm going to take on this slate. I think getting both quarterbacks in there is the safe way, the chalk way, but I'm fine with it. Chark was kind of surprised, right? He was questionable. There was some probable, I thought, and then he was downgraded to out. So that does open up some stuff here for the Jags receivers. We'll get to in a bit. But Cole, Chenault, Conley, possibly Westbrook, Colin Johnson are all in play on the slate. So James Robinson, 7-8. He's been really, really solid for this Jacksonville team. And like I said, Miami's defense, I'm not really scared of him. He is their first and second down back. And they've utilized him a bit through the air too. 1 and 3 catches in the first couple games. So I think he's a safe option. I think for a cash game lineup, I'd probably do something like this. Both quarterbacks, probably James Robinson. You can throw Myles Gaskin in there too, right? Because the running backs and the quarterbacks just have the highest floor. So I think a cash lineup starting like that is probably the way that I would go. And then there's value at wide receiver you can get to make it work. So that's how I would go about building a 50-50 or head-to-head lineup, just because I always mention it. But quarterbacks, running backs, they have the highest floor. I think Robinson's going to be pretty popular on the slate. I don't think he's a must-play. I think he's a decent play. But I think the ownership will be pretty high on him. So, no real issue with him. I think he's a safe option. The workload will be there. His first and second down back with Chris Thompson coming in for the passing down situations. Let's see. So I skipped over Devontae Parker. He is, Miami's #1 receiver, but they will spread it out, right? Williams, Isaiah Ford, Gesicki. So don't necessarily think Devontae Parker's a must play. I think a lot of people will try to use most of their salary. I think for GPPs, like I said, the way that I'm attacking the slate is I'm trying to get different. I'm leaving a bunch of money on the table. So I don't necessarily think you had to play Devontae Parker. I think Preston Williams looks good for cheaper. I think Isaiah Ford, who's led the team in targets, looks like a decent option as well. So, I'm fine with Parker, right? He'll play basically the whole game. He's got the upside, but I don't necessarily think he's a must-play either. Yeah, so Gesicki, I think he's going to be very, very popular, right? Because the big game last week, 8 catches, 11 targets. And I have no issue with Mike Gesicki. I think he's a really solid play. They'll utilize him in the red zone. 7.4K is a fair price point. So, yeah, I'm good with Mike Gesicki, but I think the ownership will be pretty high in him. So that's kind of a stand that I'm taking. I'm going to fade. I don't think it's a risky fade for sure, right? Like I'm scared of fading Mike Gesicki, but I think the ownership's going to be pretty high in him. So I'm fine getting away from it. But if you get to him, that's fine, right? He's a guy that will utilize a bunch in the red zone. The targets have been there. He's a great receiver. So Mike Gesicki, a perfectly fine play. But for single entry guys like myself, you got to take stands sometimes, and that's just a stand I'm willing to take. Myles Gaston at 7.2. So like I said, a little bit surprised, but he has been their kind of workhorse back. Like they will utilize Howard a bit, Breida a bit, but he's got over 60% of snaps the first couple games. And the good thing to see too is the targets, right? 4 and 7 targets, I should say. So he's a decent pass catching back as well. I think he will be a little bit lower owned than Robinson just because the carries, right? Only 9 and 7 carries. But if the Dolphins are playing from ahead, you could see Gaston get 10 to 15 carries. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. So I think he's certainly someone that's playable. Again, a more safe option. Quarterbacks, running backs are always safer on these showdown sites. Now Preston Williams, this is a stand that I'm taking here. I like him a lot. He's the guy that I'm going to in the captain spot because it's just an ownership thing, right? I think his price point and the way the slate is working out, I think he flies under the radar. I think both quarterbacks are going to be super, super high owned. I think Robinson will pick up a good amount of ownership. I think Gaston will as well. And I think Shenault, right? Everyone wants to play Shenault, so he's going to get a lot of ownership at a similar price. And then you have cheap options, right? Keelan Cole, I think, will get good ownership. And then some cheap options like Ford Conley, I think, will pick up some ownership. I think Preston Williams flies under the radar. And the snaps have been there. He's a guy that can go to in the red zone. Hasn't really had a great start, but the targets have been there. 5 and 7 targets. He had a breakout year last year. I think he's a really solid option in the mid-range, and it's just an ownership thing with me. So I'm going Preston Williams. I'm going with him in the captain spot just because of the ownership. I think he does go lower owned on the slate, and I kind of do like Preston Williams. So let's go to Shenault, right? He's going to be very popular. Just everyone's talking about Shenault. Everyone wants to play him. I think he's a good option. I do. The rookie's been getting a lot of hype. They'll utilize him a bit through the ground too. I think that's a slight boost, right? Not a huge boost, but it's good to see they'll utilize him through the air or through receiving and rushing the ball. So and with no DJ Chark, I think that does boost his snaps a little bit too. So he's a guy who will be very popular in my opinion, but I think he's a solid play here in the mid range. Again, he'll be utilized both through the air and on the ground. The defenses are a void for me. Like there's just no way I'm paying 6.4 for the Jags D. If they get a pick 6 and pay off, so be it. I'm just not doing it. I'm not considering the Dolphins defense either, even though they're cheaper. I just think this game has all the potential for a shootout. So defenses are going to be a void for me. Eifert at 5.8 is fine. I'm not really prioritizing him. I think he's a fine option. I think he does go a little bit lower owned, but not super, super excited about Eifert. Keelan Cole's a guy I think will also be very popular. The 5.4K price point is fair, and with no Chark, I think it's a slight boost to Keelan Cole. So I think he's a really, really good play for salary relief. He's going to be popular, but I have no issue with Keelan Cole. The targets have been there, the production's been there, and the price point is very, very fair. Yeah, Jordan Howard, right, it's just a complete avoid for me. There's no way I'm playing Jordan Howard. If he gets a goal line touchdown, so be it. He's at 4 and 7 yards on the ground with 5 and 8 carries. The touchdown in both weeks. I'm just not getting to Jordan Howard. He's not playing enough snaps for me to consider him. If he was like under $1,000, then he would be worth a dart throw. But at 4.8, there's just no way I'm playing him. Both kickers are playable. I don't think I would play both in a GPP lineup, but if you want to get to one, that's fine, right? The upside is probably around 15 fancy points, so don't rule them out. The kickers are certainly playable. Like, all they really need is a couple long field goals, and they have potential to be in the GPP winning lineup. Again, the defenses are going to be a void for me. If one of them gets a pick six, so be it. I'm just not considering the defenses. Now, Isaiah Ford, a guy that's going to be, in my opinion, very popular as a cheap option. I think he is like below 4K is going to be the most popular play. Well, the targets have been there. 5 and 9 targets. The snaps have been decent on him too. The price point is super cheap for a guy that's going to play a majority of the game. So I think he's a really, really decent option here. The ownerships will be there. But he's a speedster. He can break long ones. So yeah, Isaiah Ford as a cheap option, I think looks really, really good. I think he will be popular. Chris Thompson's a guy that will fly under the radar, right? Because you have Isaiah Ford at a similar price. Ford's getting you up all the ownership. Don't completely rule out Chris Thompson, though. Like I said, the big game, like, he has potential for a big game. We haven't really seen it yet from him, but he's a really good pass-catching back. And if you think the Jags fall behind early in this one, I think you're going to want some Chris Thompson exposure here if you're making multiple lineups, right? If you think the Jags are playing from ahead, James Robinson's your guy. So it's all about, build your lineups or build your lineup with how you think the game plays out. If you think the Jags are playing from behind, Thompson does get a boost here, right? I think he will get more snaps. So don't rule him out. He is a guy that I think has upside that I think goes overlooked on the slate. Conley, another cheap option that I think is certainly viable here. At 2.2K, he played on, let me go to the Jags. He played on 45% of snaps. I think that does go up with no Chark. Now, sure, right? Colin Johnson snaps could go up. Westbrook might get into the rotation too. So maybe not, but I assume he probably gets a little bit more work, and he's certainly someone you can look to at 2.2K. He had 7 targets last week, so that's obviously good to see. Another cheap option that is in play. Like I said, guys, this slate is super interesting because there's a lot of cheap options here. Breida, now we're getting to the dart throw range. So nothing really below this range I can recommend with confidence, but if you're making multiple lineups, sure, you can throw some of these guys in here. Like Breida will probably get 20% of the snaps. He's a decent pass-catching back. You can look to him. O'Shaughnessy, same thing, right? The snaps will be there. Not an amazing pass-catching tight end, but did have 4 catches last week. Eifert is clearly the number 1 guy, but you can look to O'Shaughnessy at 1.6K, who should get 40-50% of the snaps. Jakeem Grant played in about, 20% of the snaps? 13%, so it's super, super risky, but we saw it last, the Monday Night Football game with, I forget who it was in the Raiders. Zay Jones, he only played like 10 to 15 minutes of snaps. He caught a touchdown, so like these guys still have potential to be in the GPP winning upside, but they're super, super risky. Shaheen, kind of the same thing, right, in play, but super, super risky. Colin Johnson, I think, is potential, right? He's a big body receiver. I think the snaps do go up on him. He only played, 11% of the snaps, no Chark. I think he could get, 20-30% of the snaps. And like I said, they could go to him in the red zone. So he's potential to have value here. Smythe as well at 400. D.D. Westbrook, he is active. How much work does he get? I don't know. But he's a pretty good wide receiver. So at the flat min, it's risky because we don't know what the workload's going to be. But if you're making a lot of lineups, like if I was making, let's say, 10 lineups, I think I would throw Westbrook in at least one of those and just take the risk. Right? He's the flat min, and he has potential. We just don't know what his workload is going to be. Is he even going to see the field? But he's a good receiver. So that's a play that intrigues me at the flat min. I don't think a lot of people will get to him. Elfson is right. He's the 3rd tight end. Nothing more than a dart throw. But those are all the guys that you can at least consider down there. Really below Conley, it gets super, super risky. So, like I said, for a cash game build for me, it's both quarterbacks and probably at least one of those running backs. That's the way that I would start it. But I'm only playing the big tournament tonight. The $10 or $20 entry, whatever is the top heavy tournament, the big tournament, and I'm just trying to take it down solo. I'm leaving about 4K on the table. So I told you guys what I'm doing. I'm playing Preston Williams in the captain spot because I think he flies on a bit on the radar. And he hasn't had really a great week the first couple weeks, but I know the upside is there. And the price point just makes him, again, you have Chenault at a similar price point. You have the running backs, I think will get a good amount of ownership. I just think Preston Williams doesn't get a lot of ownership. I think the upside is still there. So that's the direction that I'm going. I told you guys I'm playing both quarterbacks. So that's it for me. Let's get to some questions here. We got about 10 minutes till lock, so we are currently at over 100 viewers. Again, hit that like button, guys, and subscribe if you haven't already. QB or running back for captain? Yeah, that's a safe way to go. I think quarterback at captain is the highest floor. Probably Minshew, right? I think him is, if I had to pick a quarterback in the captain spot, it would be Minshew. I think he has a little bit more running upside than Fitzpatrick. Let's see. Keelan Cole is a lock for me. Yeah, he's going to be popular. I think him and Isaiah Ford as cheap options are going to be the most popular. I think both look pretty good, right? Both are going to get a majority of snaps. The targets have been there in both those guys. So I like Cole and I like Isaiah Ford. And like I said, you can confidently leave like $6K on the table, in my opinion. There's a lot of guys, cheap options, that are certainly playable here that have upside too. So that's why this slate is a lot different than normal showdown slates. Like normal showdown slates, we kind of know where production is, right? The spend ups are guys we want to jam in, and then there's maybe one or two viable cheap options. Not on this slate. There is a ton of different ways you can go. Let's see. Thompson or Ford for cash? It's got to be Ford for me. He's going to be more popular, and in cash games, ownership doesn't matter. So Ford for cash for me. My brain physically does not let me leave more than 2K. That's fair. Captain, let's see. Fitz, Flex, Cole, Ford, Gaston, Gesicki, and Minshew. I think it looks good. Might just stay with Robinson for safety. Yeah, Robinson's a pretty safe option, right? Because he's the first and second down back. The Jags, they're favorites, right? I'm pretty sure they are favored in this game. Yeah, they're 3-point favorites. So if they're playing from ahead, I think you will see a good amount of work for Robinson, who's gotten good carries, right? He is clearly the guy they're going to go to on the ground. 16 carries in the first couple games is really, really good to see. And the Jags have been hyping him up. So I like him as a safe option. I do. Chenault or Robinson? It kind of depends. I think for a cash game build, it's Robinson. For GPPs, it's tricky. Both are going to be popular, so don't really have a strong take there. Getting to Thompson. Chris Thompson? Yeah, I'm not playing him, but I do like him as a contrarian play. Just because, right, you have Cole as a cheap option, is going to get a good ownership, Isaiah Ford, and Conley. And Thompson's just kind of in between these guys. He's going to fly under the radar. It's a risky play for sure. And I would not play Chris Thompson in cash games, but does intrigue me for GPPs. I'm not playing him, but I think he does have potential to get like 6 or 7 catches if the Jags fall behind, right? You kind of do need Jacksonville to be playing from behind. So, like I said, build your lineup with how you think the game plays out. If the Jags are playing from ahead, definitely hurts Thompson's upside. So, risky play. Conley or Ford? It's going to be Ford for me, but it's close. Devontae Parker, Keelan Cole, more fancy points. I'll go Keelan Cole. Also, would you rather have Gaston or Gesicki, Mike Gesicki? I'll go Gaston. It's a close one, but I'll go Gaston. Lakers showdown tonight, too. Yeah, the NBA showdown slate is really interesting because you can't jam in all 4 of the studs. You actually can play one of the Denver guys in the Captain Murray or Jokic and 2 other studs and make a lineup that it's at least playable. Or you can go someone value at captain. So haven't really decided what I'm going to do yet for the showdown NBA. Chenault or Gaston? I'll go Gaston for cash, Chenault for GPPs. Top captain. For cash games, it's probably one of the quarterbacks for me. For GPPs, it's really tough, right? Because there's so many. Both teams spread the ball out a lot. I told you I'm going Preston Williams just for the ownership. How do you feel about fading all the running backs? It's viable. I do not have a running back in my lineup. And I'm just, like I said, I'm kind of hoping for the shootout. There's a lot of cheap value receivers. So you don't necessarily have to. For cash games, I would play running back, though. Like I said, for safety. Both quarterbacks and at least one of those running backs. Captain Robinson. Minshew, Fitz, Chenault, Gaston, and Chris Conley. Yep. What do you think about Captain Minshew, Cole, Fitzpatrick, Gaskin, Chenault, and this for FanDuel? Yeah, that looks good. I think it does. Visca, Chenault, yep, Captain. Let's see, Fitz, Gardner, Gesicki, Thompson, and Parker. No issue with that, right? Thompson is the guy that's going to fly under the radar, but I think has potential. But you really do need the Jags to fall behind. Ford, Thompson, or Conley. So Ford and Conley are probably safer options, but I still do kind of like Thompson. Again, you need the Jags to fall behind though. So how risky are you willing to get? If you're only making one lineup, then it's probably Ford for me. If you're willing to take the risk and go the super low on Thompson, then again I kind of like it. But you need the game script. You need the negative game script. You need the Jags to fall behind. If they are playing from ahead, I think you could get a heavy dose of Robinson on the ground, which would obviously definitely hurt Chris Thompson. Are you streaming for NBA Showdown tonight? Probably not, just because it's right after this. I got to eat some dinner and I got to get my video up for my final look for Week 3. DK thoughts? Let's see. Minshew, Captain, Fitz, Keelan Cole, Chenault, Ford, Williams. Looks good. I've honestly been liking FanDuel slate for NBA Showdown because of the. Yeah, I've noticed that the FanDuel does have an interesting format with the 2x, 1.5x, and 1.2x. It does make it a little bit different than Draftkings. I still probably do prefer the Draftkings format, but it's an interesting way that FanDuel went about that. Monday, Thursday, Classic, Williams, Chenault, or Cole. Give me Preston Williams. What do you think about Fitz, Minshew, Gesicki, Chenault, Keelan Cole, and Sanders? Yeah, that's fine with me. What do you think about Captain Robinson, Fitz, Minshew, Ford, Laviska, Chenault, and Gesicki? Looks good. Eifert, yeah, so Eifert is going to be lower owned. He kind of is a similar play to me as Preston Williams. Both are going to fly under the radar, in my opinion. I don't think people want to play both tight ends, and a lot of people are going to play Mike Gesicki. So Eifert does fly under the radar. I don't hate him. I just think he goes lower owned. Makes for an interesting contrarian play. Can I run my NBA Showdown? Yeah, of course. Yeah, run it by me. I'll give you my thoughts. But yeah, we got a couple minutes till lock, so let me know if you guys have any more questions here. I'll go over some ownership too, and then I'll get out here. So yeah, run by your NBA lineup. I'll give you my thoughts. Yeah, Laviska. I mean, everyone is talking about Chenault on Twitter. I think he's gonna be super popular. So many people fading Devontae Parker. I don't think Devontae Parker is a bad play. I think he will still be pretty popular. So I don't have an issue with Devontae Parker, right? It's just they're spread out the usage with him, Preston Williams, and Ford and Gesicki. So if you get to Devontae Parker, that's fine. Like, I'm not saying fade Devontae Parker. I think he's a pretty decent play. I'm just taking contrarian, I guess, mindset to this slate and leaving a bunch of money on the table because I think there is potential for some of the cheaper options to break the slate. Captain KCP, Caruso, Davis, Howard, Jokic, and Murray. I like that. It's a pretty similar build to mine. Like I said, you can go Jamal Murray or Jokic in the captain and then get two other studs. And you would have to play some cheap options, but that is a potential build. So you got to weigh out, is it worth going cheaper in captain and three of the studs and getting a couple, slight upgrades in the utility, or do you want to go with one of the studs in the captain spot and then just play the super, super cheap guys? NBA, let's see. Dwight, AD, Bron, Murray, KCP, and Harris. I like it. Have you ever shown your contest history on your channel? Contest history, like going over like my lineups and stuff? Or what do you mean by that? Or Murray, captain, LeBron, AD, McGee, Cruz. See, yeah, so that it's tough because I think the upside might be a little bit higher in a lineup like that with Murray in the captain, but you got to take risk, right? You got to play Craig, you got to play McGee. It's a tricky one. It is. I don't know. It's an interesting slate. I'm playing Gary Harris in the captain spot. I am. That's just another way I'm getting different. I'm getting a little bit contrarian. I don't think he continues to shoot that bad for Denver. I think if he does play decent, he has potential to play 35-plus minutes. he's a similar play to me to KCP and Green, 3-and-D guys. So yeah, I feel like there isn't a wrong way to go on the slate. Seriously, like there isn't. I don't really have a strong take on this game because there's so many different ways you can go. It's kind of just a fun slate. This is not a slate I would risk like any amount of like big money on. Like it doesn't. There's just so many different ways it can go, so many options. So yeah, I'm only playing the $10 or the $20 tournament, and that's it. Monty Morris captain, AD, Bron, Jokic, KCP, Dwight. Yeah, so like I said, does that lineup look better, or does a lineup with like Murray or Jokic in the captain and then like the super cheap guys in there look better? I think the upside is a little bit higher with like Murray or Jokic in the captain spot, but I don't know. Have you ever tried FanDuel? So I used to play FanDuel all the time. And then when Draftkings had late swap, I swapped over to Draftkings. So I think from like, I played on FanDuel before I played in Draftkings. I want to say like, I don't know, 2012, 2013 to 2016 I played on FanDuel. Thoughts on Gary Harris? Yeah, I told you. I'm playing Gary Harris in the captain spot. Another risky build, but I'm not playing big money on either slate. I save my big exposure for the main slates, like this upcoming Sunday, and then for NBA, like I said, I'm just gonna wait to play like big money for the regular season next year. I'm running Harris in the captain spot, LeBron, AD, Morris, Green, and Murray. Yes, that's really similar to my build. Never liked kickers on FanDuel. Yes, NBA, Captain Murray, Davis, Joker, Pope, Monty Morris, and Craig. I think Monty. Yeah, so like I said, I think like that build has a little bit more upside than going with like a KCP in the captain or a Gary Harris. Now, I'm going with that direction to get a little bit different, but if you're going for safety, I think it does make sense actually to go like Murray or Jokic in the captain with two other studs and then the super cheap value. Dang, you've been in this game for a long time now. Yeah, super long time. I've been playing for almost 10 years DFS. So, all right, let's go over some ownership. This is just in the big $10 tournament. So, quarterbacks are super high owned. No real surprise there. Gardner Minshew, almost 90% owned. Fitzpatrick at 74%. Shenault, almost 50%. Again, no real surprise there. Keelan Cole at 60%. Isaiah Ford, 24%. Preston Williams, 18%. Yeah. Oh yeah, I can show my lineup. So again, the reason why I like Preston Williams is the ownership, and only 18%, only 2% of people played in the captain spot. So I'm perfectly fine with that. Let's try to find some other lineups though. Gesicki coming in at 61%. Yeah, so the ownership is really high on 5 guys. Or I'm guessing that the running backs are going to be pretty high owned here too. Robinson, 63%. So literally both quarterbacks, Shenault, Robinson, and Gesicki are all super popular. But there were other options. And that's why I thought this slate was interesting. So yes, this is my lineup, guys. I left almost 4K on the table. But that's the direction that I went. Chark, 4%. 4%. Hey, that's 4% dead money. I'll take it. Williams, 12% in my lineup. It was just an ownership play. Nothing more than that. And I think he does have potential to have a good game. He's a big body receiver. So, yeah. I want Parker. Motherfuckers made that lineup 2 days ago. I want Parker captain. I'm fine with Parker. I haven't seen his ownership. I don't think he was super popular. I went Gesicki in captain spot. That's fine, right? He's a guy that'll utilize a ton. I just took a risky stand and faded him. Ended up with the same lineup. Really? That's kind of crazy, leaving almost 4K on the table. But hopefully we split. Hopefully we take down the tournament together. Best of luck. Yeah, good luck to you guys too. Not going to be going live for NBA, but if you guys have any other questions, just hit me up on Twitter. So good luck tonight if you guys are playing NFL. If you're playing NBA, good luck as well. And if you have any questions, you can always hit me up on Twitter. I'm going to go get some food, though. So have a good night, guys. I will see you guys.